Greetings, Dragon Ball fans, and welcome to part 2 of What If Kami Had Kids? In the last part, the Z-Fighters were introduced to Kami's first two warrior clan children. The brothers, Fujin and Raijin, named after the gods of thunder and wind respectively, had barely time to say hello before Raditz arrived and things got interesting fast. With Piccolo still managing to kill both Raditz and Goku, the Warriors Three then took it upon themselves to train the explosively unreliable Gohan for the impending arrival of these other, even stronger Saiyans. Gohan's training was far less aggressive this time around, so you'd be forgiven for thinking that he'd be weaker for it. There are, however, other factors at work here. Kami's children are much more inclined to visit their old man back at the lookout, where there happen to be others training as hard as they can under Popo's baleful gaze. With Fujin and Raijin both starting out almost on par with Piccolo, the rest of the Earthlings are treated to at least some of Piccolo's intensity. Gohan has also benefited from this varied training regime, sprinkled with some intermittent studying, as Fujin had promised Chi-Chi that they would honor her desires. Overall, he is much more aware of himself, more confident in his abilities, and is at least a bit less likely to lock up when things get too much. He, along with the relatively young children of Kami, also learn many other techniques from the wider array of available Z-Fighters. Once they arrived, Nappa, and more so Vegeta, were handled with no small amount of effort, and now the Earthlings of various shapes and skin colors set their sights on Namek in order to bring back their friend Chaozu, who cannot be restored to life with Earth's still present Dragon Balls. The Namek-bound travelers have been decided, and they depart several days earlier than in canon in that old Namekian spaceship. Not a day into their trip, Krillin, the sole human, along with Piccolo, Raijin, and Fujin, have already figured out their routine. Given the tight spaces, considering the three fairly large Namekian warriors, it consists mostly of meditation, image training, and a whole lot of discussion. Topics vary, but a lot of it is Piccolo and his two, nephews, working through issues of their or their parents' past. Krillin gets ringside seats to much of this, and there is some obvious hints that Piccolo's attempt to save Gohan's life was perhaps not as altruistic as it could have been, had he been the boy's sole trainer. He was in fact not the first one to step in the way. That honor had fallen to Raijin. It is during one of these conversations when Piccolo suddenly gets up and walks over to the hastily installed storage locker, packed with hoi-poi capsules of various contents. After examining the out-of-place locker for a while, he opens the lower door, revealing a stowaway, complete with a small torch and a couple of books. Having been desperate to both help, and maybe just to get out from underneath his slightly overbearing mother, Gohan has decided to come along for the ride. Being so close to Earth, Krillin floats the idea of turning around, but seeing Gohan's reaction, instead suggests that, if anyone asks, maybe they didn't find him for several days. The now 5 of them return to their meditation and image training, and Gohan can now participate in the discussions instead of just listening to them. On the trip they deal with the rebel ship much faster, then, running into fake Namek, the presence of this trio de verre is enough to put the fake Namekians off, so they quickly move on to their actual target. It's worth noting that with the various Namekians' help, the Briefs family had managed to fix the ship in only a few days before throwing themselves headfirst into building the second Capsule Corp ship. With the rebels and fake Namek also handled in short order, they arrive on Namek itself well over a week ahead of schedule. Has Vegeta even made it to Frieza Planet 79 yet? If so, he's hopefully still chilling quietly in his Bacta tank. Either way, Frieza is also at an earlier point in his quest for the Dragon Balls. It seems to take them quite a while to get from one ball to the other, so while his original encounter with Krillin and Gohan has him collecting his 5th ball, was it? From Dende's village, I think it's fair to say that he is much further behind here. Let's say he has only 2 at this point, so the radar doesn't highlight his efforts quite as dramatically. When the contingent from Earth arrive, they quickly head towards the closest village, which, oh so conveniently, is Mori's. The locals there are mystified to meet these 3 completely unknown brothers, with some very strange names. Piccolo is a bit quiet and remains standing behind Gohan and Krillin, while Fujin and Raijin are having a great time meeting their long-lost relatives. After explaining things, they are quickly given the Dragon Ball, and then they head to what would have been Frieza's 4th target, the 3-star ball, was it? Ever the curious one, Dende, with Mori's permission, decides to accompany them on their quest. The familiar face will hopefully help expedite things. We'll skip over the in-flight entertainment where Dende likely inquires all about them, their father, and Piccolo's somewhat muddied origins. After they collect their 2nd ball, Krillin pulls out the radar to see where to go next. Dende is of course fascinated by the device, but alarmed when they see 2 of the balls moving rapidly towards a 3rd. Well, that's odd. Why would anyone else be collecting the balls? Oh no, is it Vegeta? How could he have healed so fast? Reaching out to try and sense their recent adversary, they are instead hit by the full force of Frieza's first form, which dwarfs the other powers trailing along with him. That power is insane. And worse, it's about as pure and an unadulterated evil as it ever sensed. Even Piccolo, someone who had long since prided himself as being the most evil of demon kings, is left speechless. Perhaps that time with Gohan, his relatives, and maybe even the other Z-Fighters has had some effect. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? When Dende tentatively reaches out as well, he breaks down crying. He reaches out just in time to sense the villagers disappearing one by one, as they are likely tortured for what? The ball? Oh, this changes everything. They need to be very careful. That power can clearly see the Dragon Balls as well, as it was heading straight for that third one. They quickly head back to Mori's village to consider their next move, when the 3 local warriors arrived, having heard of or felt bad things happening. They know of only one other person who might be able to help them, and he is days away, guarding their elder. Knowing that they can't risk taking the Dragon Balls there, 2 of the 3 new arrivals offer to carry the balls far away and keep moving to avoid the enemy forces. They take the 2 balls and fly off in different directions. Then the 3rd warrior says that he will take them to meet, I guess, the closest thing they have to a guardian of Namek, their eldest of elders and father of them all, Guru. So does Dende go with them? After sensing Frieza, I think he might want to. There has to be something he can do to help face the purity of that evil. Really anything. The 7 of them are met at Guru's tower by the imposing Nail. He greets the warrior and little Dende, then, quickly assessing Fujin and Raijin, he greets them as well. With Piccolo, he is a bit more circumspect. There's this darkness about him. Though these 2 short, fair-skinned ones are interesting, if relatively harmless. But a dark Namekian? Not even in their book of legends is there any mention of a Namekian with such a dark heart. We're going to ignore Lord Slug, since the movies aren't strictly canon, so we can basically pick and choose. They are shown inside to meet with Guru. Dende relays both their story and what he has sensed moving around the planet. Guru has also been aware of something dark, but wasn't close enough to get a good read on him. Now, though, reading Dende and then Fujin's mind, he is sent into despair. There is nothing on the planet that can combat something like that. Even Nail, with all his power, is nothing in comparison. They need to make their wishes as quickly as possible to nullify the balls before whatever that thing is gets what it wants, and they will need help that he can give, even though it may shorten his lifespan further. The Z-Fighters are no doubt interested in the term wishes, though. Having read Fujin's mind, and thus knowing most of what Kami knows about his past, Guru can see that ultimately it is not Piccolo, or Kamikolo, or whatever you want to call him's fault. He was stranded on that world, filled with a people whose hearts are really all over the place. Their darkness had infected him, corrupted him. While his unified self could possibly have purged the evil another way, at that point there was simply no time, given Garlic's maneuvering to become Guardian instead. While the darkness in this Piccolo's heart was then passed on via the soul of his father, there was also a softening around the edges. Guru says that there may be a way to help cleanse some of Piccolo's soul. It would not remove the evil entirely, just sort of smother it, in Guru's memories of the Namekian people. Piccolo isn't at all sure about this. It feels right, but he doesn't actually want to be changed, does he? Does he want to risk his priorities shifting with that sheer bulk of knowledge? He looks down at Gohan, who he is almost a bit fond of, and then at Dende, and he can see the mixture of awe and fear in the child's eyes. He also recalls Kami's other 2 children. He remembered quite clearly wanting to despise them, but instead feeling only a vague sense of kinship. His memories of his father's own children likely instilling some sense of, or desire for, family. Finally, Piccolo steps forward and undergoes the Namekian equivalent of a mind meld with Guru. As he staggers away to process things in peace, Guru goes on to unlock the potentials in first Fujin and Raijin, before moving on to the 2 pale ones. Much to his surprise, Guru then beckons Dende forward to have his potential unlocked as well. The boy was right. These are dark times, and they need all the help that they can get. Having a healer on hand will probably be a great help down the road. The other, as yet unnamed Namekian warrior has unfortunately already had his potential unlocked, so there is not much that can be done there. Piccolo finally returns from staring at the wide, majestic vistas of his now vividly remembered homeworld. You're likely familiar with those beautifully slow, panning shots that take up a good half to two-thirds of an episode? Yeah, one of those. He kneels down before Guru, and the deed done, he is back on par with, if not slightly above, the already considerable increases that his brothers have received. That mind meld has imparted more than just memories. Certain techniques are now known to him, juicy, maliciously abusable, and oh so forbidden techniques among them. Nail and the other unnamed Namekian warrior. Can we just call him Sopra, like in What If Vegeta Spared Nappa? Great, yeah, let's do that. Nail and Soper are just a little bit amazed at what the potential unlock is doing for this trio of Namekian warriors. How could they have that much potential hidden away inside them? I'm sure Guru can do the exposition on the child of Katas, that legendary Super Namekian who tore himself apart to form Kami and Piccolo Daimyo, their fathers after a fashion. Their conversation is brought to a halt when they sense an energy heading their way. If that's their normal operating power, how high is it really? Those from Earth mention that the Saiyans, Nappa and Vegeta, both did not seem inclined to suppress their strength. So if they're with them, then hopefully that's all there is to see. They depart to intercept, and eventually are met by not one, but two powers. Zarbon and Dodoria have both been dispatched to investigate some strange energy spikes, and maybe a Dragonball way over that-a-way. They are entirely unprepared for what meets them. Having had a bit more time to acclimate, while Guru waxed lyrical about various topics, they are all much further toward their maximum unlocked potentials. At this point, even the likes of Krillin is currently almost as strong as Nail, who in turn is easily twice as strong as Frieza's soon-to-be ex-favorite dog's buddies. Krillin does the deed, knocking them both out, sending Dodoria over a nearby horizon moments before sending Zarbon cratering into the ground. Piccolo says that he should have killed them, like they should have killed Vegeta. That doesn't sit quite right with him. Maybe... No, he should have killed them. They're a threat to the planet, but they're so weak, relatively speaking, hardly any threat at all. Zarbon eventually wakes to find himself surrounded on all sides by these oddly confident Namekians. And, some not Namekians? What are they? These small, pale-skinned ones. Wait, that small, pale-skinned one had almost casually taken both him and Dodoria down. Best to play it safe for now. Is the scouter still on? Yep. And yeah, it's still transmitting. Let's see what he can get them to say. They're looking for the Dragon Balls as well, are they? Yes. Oh, they have a collection of them, do they? On a faraway island in a big ocean? He could certainly find that on the map they made while in orbit. Oh, this is perfect. Frieza's power is spiking, and yep, it's moving off rapidly. His lord will be so pleased he managed to get this juicy information out of these blabbering idiots. Zarbon never saw the green fist that knocked him out, then was held there for a moment, palm open, ready to fire. Damn it, Piccolo thinks to himself. He knows he should kill the man, but he just doesn't want to do it. Nail sees Piccolo's growing frustration and can empathize a bit. He's feeling just a little bit out of his depth right now. First the news and then the feeling of that insanely powerful thing, and then he got to watch as his impressive might was made so thoroughly mediocre. Like this, he says, as he takes the unconscious Zarbon by the cape and launches him over that same horizon that Dodoria flew over almost an hour ago. Right, so everyone can feel that nasty power making a beeline for that big ocean on the other side of the planet, right? Great. What does that radar thing say? Is he taking his balls with him? No? Yes, it's worked. Zarbon's scouter had been doing just what they'd hoped. They then fly off on their own search. Nail contacts the two warriors who were busy flying around with their first two balls. Then he returns to Guru's side, having little more to add to the group. Krillin, Gohan, and Dende head off with Guru's one-star ball in one direction to pick up the remaining Dragon Ball, while Piccolo, Fujin, and Raijin head off in another, to the now 3 balls left relatively unguarded at Frieza's ship. When they arrive, they are initially unsure of how to deal with the ship's guards. Will taking them out alert Frieza in some way? No, he's almost 2/3 of the way to that island. Surely the scouter can't work through that much solid planet. So they charge in, knocking the rank-and-file soldiers down and out of the way. As they fly away from the relatively undamaged Frieza Force ship, and the other group shake hands, or whatever Namekians do, with that last village's elders, A small pod enters the Namekian system, and a small samurai walks into Goku's hospital room with a bag of senzu. And here is where we shall leave things. Frieza is off on a wild goose chase after what he thinks is 3 more balls to add to his collection. With Vegeta landing and Goku about to step aboard the built and thoroughly tested Capsule Corp ship, the Namekian contingent are, themselves, only a day or so away from their wishes. So I wonder how things will play out. Find out next time on Dragon Ball. What if Kami had kids?